Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Goodwin's deadly stalker may be Chicago Med Season 10's biggest returning character thus far. Chicago Med Season 10's biggest character return may turn out to be Goodwin's stalker. Throughout the season, Goodwin receives death threats and continually looks over her shoulder, believing she is being followed. Although she's offered the opportunity to work remotely from home until the stalker is caught, Goodwin refuses to do so. However, there's something of a One Chicago crossover, as Atwater appears once to tell Goodwin about a new lead. Supposedly, the Chicago police caught the man and the stalking is over, but the episode 8 trailer reveals the police are mistaken about that. Atwater and the rest of the Chicago Police Department believe that the guilty party is a man named Paul Dunn, who is angry that Goodwin laid him off earlier in the season. Goodwin laid off many people as a cost-cutting measure, which means there are an infinite number of suspects who might want revenge after losing their jobs. The stalker's identity will be revealed in episode 8, and it is equally likely that a past character returning to Chicago Med is behind the terror campaign against Goodwin. The Chicago Med Season 10, Episode 8 trailer focuses primarily on Reese's return. Reese is a main character during the first 4 seasons of the hospital drama, during which she has difficulty deciding on a specialty and considers quitting medicine several times. In her final season, she works as a psychiatric resident under Dr. Charles' supervision, but leaves the hospital because she blames Charles for her father's death. Thus, it is weird that Reese is suddenly returning 6 years later, especially since she has not been mentioned since her departure. The official logline says that Reese clashes with Charles over a patient's treatment for depression, but that doesn't explain why she's suddenly re-emerging. Furthermore, the timing is suspicious. The trailer features Sharon confronting her stalker, and it's clear that it's someone she knows. That makes Reese a prime suspect, as she returns after several years just in time for this reveal. The fact that she left the hospital feeling angry and betrayed gives her a good motive to hurt Goodwin. Although she blames Charles for her father's death, Goodwin does not fire him, so Reese might hold her accountable. Reese's conflict with Charles over her father begins long before his death. Reese's father was a psychopath. In Chicago Med Season 4, Reese receives scans of his brain that prove that the structure is consistent with this. Despite knowing what he's like, Reese attempts to forge a new relationship with her father, even offering for him to stay with her and co-signing a loan for him. However, his heart attack occurs soon after Charles confronts him with evidence that he had murdered some girls in Wisconsin. Given this history, it's possible that Reese has inherited some of her father's negative traits, such as his lack of empathy for others and willingness to commit violence to get what she wants. Thus, Reese could have carefully hidden these tendencies while working at Gaffney Medical Center in the past, waiting for the right moment to strike. It's a mystery why she would decide to start harassing Goodwin now rather than at any other time in the past 6 years. Still, she could have been biding her time while planning to get revenge at a later date. The biggest reason to suspect Reese is the stalker is that she's been missing from the Chicago Med cast for over half a decade. However, her long absence also means that, unless there is a convincing explanation, it might feel like the writers are tacking on a random ending to this storyline by revealing that it's her. This would be a disappointing ending to a suspenseful narrative, and it could anger the viewers that love Reese and are looking forward to her return. While the timing suggests Reese is Goodwin's stalker, there is another character that makes more sense: Zach. Lennox abruptly fires him after he freezes during a mass casualty event, causing Goodwin to tend to a patient by herself, even though she is not a doctor. Goodwin tells Lennox what happened and signs off on Zach's termination. Therefore, Chicago Med could be using Reese's presence as a red herring before revealing that Zach is the true stalker. This would be a more logical solution to the mystery, though it is possible that Reese is not who she seems. In the halls of Gaffney Chicago Medical Center, the line between life and death is often a matter of seconds. But this season on Chicago Med, it's not just the patients who are in danger, it's Sharon Goodwin herself. And the person behind the looming threat may be someone fans haven't seen in a long time. With a mysterious string of incidents targeting the no-nonsense hospital administrator, Season 10 appears to be teeing up its biggest return yet, and if fan theories are right, the culprit could be none other than Randall Shentu, Goodwin's former colleague turned bitter enemy. What began as a few unsettling phone calls and anonymous emails in the season 9 finale has exploded into a full-blown crisis. In the season 10 premiere, Goodwin's car was vandalized outside the hospital parking garage. Later, a bouquet of lilies, her least favorite flowers, a fact only a handful of people would know, was left on her desk with a note that simply read, "See you soon." Though Goodwin has always presented herself as composed and controlled, there was no mistaking the panic that flickered behind her eyes when she turned to Dr. Charles in episode 2 and whispered, "I think someone is watching me." Fans immediately began speculating. Was this the start of a psychological breakdown, or the return of a dangerous figure from her past? Let's rewind for a moment. Longtime Chicago Med fans will remember Randall Shentu, introduced in Season 5 as a senior member of the hospital board who clashed with Goodwin over nearly every decision. While he began as a seemingly well-meaning bureaucrat, his vendetta against Goodwin took a dark turn when he attempted to have her removed from her position for prioritizing patient care over profits. When that plan failed and Shentu was exposed for financial misconduct, he was unceremoniously removed from the board, and it seemed, from the show. But Chicago Med has always played the long game when it comes to character arcs, and now, nearly 5 seasons later, it seems Shentu may have returned, not to reclaim his job, but to ruin Goodwin's life. Shentu was never a villain in the comic book sense, said Chicago Med showrunner Diane Frolov in a recent interview. But he felt like Goodwin betrayed him, and when someone like that feels wounded, they don't heal. They plot. What makes Shentu such a terrifying antagonist isn't brute strength or a gun-toting menace. It's his intelligence, his influence, and his patience. This is a man who once ran background checks on every attending physician in the hospital without their knowledge. A man who nearly convinced the board to privatize Chicago Med and gut the ER budget. Now imagine what that same man could do with nothing to lose. In episode 3, Goodwin began receiving threatening voice messages, distorted through a voice modulator, that included chilling phrases like, "You're not safe in your own hospital, and you took everything from me, now I'll take everything from you." When security footage was pulled from the hospital's lobby after a suspicious fire alarm went off, a blurred figure in a trench coat was seen leaving the building moments later. While the stalker's identity hasn't been confirmed, sharp-eyed viewers noticed something that may have been overlooked by most: a glimpse of a distinctive silver watch on the mysterious figure's wrist, the same one Shentu was known to wear throughout his appearances in earlier seasons. By episode 5, Goodwin's behavior had shifted noticeably. Once the anchor of stability in a hospital full of chaos, she's now jumpy, distracted, and suspicious of everyone. Dr. Charles has tried to intervene, urging her to take a leave of absence and report the harassment to law enforcement, but Goodwin refuses. "If I back down now," she tells him in a quiet, shaken moment, "then he wins. And I've never let that man win." This emotional descent is one of the richest storylines Chicago Med has tackled in years, giving Epatha Merkerson a powerhouse performance arc that's drawing acclaim from critics and fans alike. Her portrayal of a woman whose decades of composure are slowly unraveling has added a layer of psychological complexity rarely seen in medical procedurals. But the question remains, is it really Shentu? Or is the show throwing out red herrings while hiding the real stalker in plain sight? There are other suspects. Some fans have pointed fingers at Dr. Liu, the quiet new trauma fellow whose backstory remains largely a mystery. Others wonder if someone from Goodwin's personal life, perhaps a disgruntled former partner or a family member of a patient she once failed to save, could be seeking revenge. Still, Shentu remains the top suspect, if only because of the poetic justice it would bring.